Now, what is the impact of Lean in services? Let's review the typical benefits of deploying a Lean program in services. Lean has two main goals: lead time reduction and process time reduction. Lead time reduction is about reducing the customer-facing end-to-end cycle time. End-to-end means that you look at the entire process from the beginning, usually when the customer makes a request, to the end, when the customer receives the service, including all the steps and departments involved. For example, we managed to reduce the time needed to deliver a credit card from 3 weeks to 15 minutes, or the development time of a new software applications from 12 to 6 months, or the conception of an annual marketing plan from 9 to 3 months. Note that the lead time reduction has a tremendous impact on customer satisfaction, but not necessarily on cost reduction. The biggest lever of lead time reduction is backlog. Your backlog is the accumulation over time of work waiting to be done. Let's take a specific activity, for example, analysis of a credit risk. You need 2 hours to perform this activity. If you have 5 customer requests on average in your backlog, you might need 2 hours to perform each activity, but every customer is actually waiting for you for 10 hours. And finally, the customer is waiting for backlogs of each activity in the end-to-end cycle. If you could get rid of the backlog and work in a one-piece flow mode, which means you do one and when you finished you receive the next one, then you would save 10 hours of lead time with no impact on your working hours. This is just magic. Typically, a 12-month Lean program can reduce the end-to-end lead time by 30 to 50%. The second goal is process time reduction. Process time is the total time spent by employees to produce a good or a service. If you decrease process time, you improve productivity, but not necessarily lead time. Process time reduction is about reducing waste. Do you remember at the beginning of this course, I mentioned that about 80% of labor cost produced only waste. And I'm sure this shocked some of you, as this shocks the majority of my clients. But the question is, can we get rid of all that waste? The answer is no, of course. Or at least no in the short or middle term, because part of this waste is necessary. For example, in a process, a control check is a necessary waste until you reach the required level of reliability. A compliance certificate is a necessary waste because you will need it to sell in some countries. Another important part of waste is obvious, such as reworks and overprocessing. This is precisely the waste we want to address with the Lean approach. This is where we want to focus our effort of continuous improvement. Typically, a 12-month Lean program can reduce process time and improve productivity by about 15%. Then the next question will be, with a 15% productivity increase, can I reduce my cost by 15%? The answer is that it is not that simple, and this is actually not always the best thing to do. First of all, we need to make the difference between headcounts and full-time equivalent. Headcount is the actual number of employees. Full-time equivalent is a metric for productivity. For example, if the average productivity for 20 employees is 20% and 30% for 20 other employees, the full-time equivalent amounts to 10. However, cost reduction is generated by a variation of headcounts. In this specific case, it is maybe less than 10. Generally speaking, productivity means either to do more with the same resources or to do the same with fewer resources. So part of the productivity should be used to sustain growth, while the other part should be used to generate margin by reducing cost. It is important to understand that the productivity deployed to sustain growth generates a higher profit margin increase than productivity deployed in cost reduction. This is a simple math. If you sell one more unit with no additional cost, the profit impact is the price of the service. If you deploy cost reduction, the impact on the profit is just the cost of the service, which is obviously much less than the price. This is exactly why companies should invest in Lean even in good times.